Hey y'all, yesterday um, you saw part of the video where we were tearing out the deck, but what we did yesterday morning was we weed-eated the garden because um, I was having a lot of trouble with the garden this year. This is the first time the soil had ever been broken, uh, and we had a whole lot of rain, so we were fighting the blight. We couldn't get rid of it. The soil was just not good rich soil yet because it hadn't been fertilized or anything, so we just had all kind of trouble. But as you can kind of see, um, I got this idea from a book that I read where you have raised beds, wide beds, and narrow paths. That way you're not walking on where the beds are. You want those to be um, nice and, I want to say, use the words nice and fluffy. But you don't want to be stepping on where your plants are, because when you do that, it's compacting the soil. And for good growth of your vegetables, you don't want compacted soil. You want it nice and fluffy. So we got our raised beds made, but we had a lot of trouble, and I got frustrated, so I just let it go, and the weeds grew up and took over. So as you can see, yesterday we pulled up the plants, and I weed-eated the garden to knock down all the grass. Now, if we were going to stay here, what I would do, I've been trying to get a load of wood chips because I've heard about the Back to Eden gardening, and I really like that idea, mainly from a standpoint of when you put the wood chips in the garden, it keeps the weeds out, and so you don't have to do a lot of weeding. But what happens is, over time, those wood chips will decompose and help to enrich your soil. So what I was wanting to do is get a load of wood chips, and I've had my name on a list with a company here in town for about 3 or 4 months now, and I still don't have any wood chips because you can't use the chips immediately, because if you put them on your garden, they will suck up all the nitrogen in the soil. So I was going to put it in an unused part of my garden and just kind of spread it out and let them age before I put them on the garden. But what you do is you put what I was going to do if we were going to stay here is this winter, with it growing over like this, I was going to come out here and I could put black plastic down on the whole garden, section at a time, and after a couple of weeks, everything under there from a grass standpoint would be dead. And then once that was dead, I would get some mushroom compost and put specifically on my bed areas, and then I was going to take the wood chips and cover over the beds and the walkways to help with weed control. So that was the idea of what I had as far as the garden and what I was going to do this winter if we were going to stay here. But since we're not going to stay here, I'm not really going to fool with it. I'm just going to I think I'm just going to leave it as it is. We may do a little bit of gardening next summer, but not to the extent that I tried to this past year. But who knows? We'll see. But over here, you can see where I put together a rainwater collection system. And homesteading is all about learning, and I learned a great deal in doing this. I learned how to do it. I've got them. The rainwater catches on the roof, goes in the gutter, goes into one barrel, and then at the bottom I have the barrels connected, tied together one to another, so that when the rain goes into one barrel, into the barrels, with them being connected at the bottom, they will all fill at an equal level. And then I've got the spigot on one of them, the far end from where it's going in. But the problem I've got is, when I went to put my barrels on here, because I really wanted them to be at the bottoms at this level so I could have the gravity. But when I put the planks up there, I realized I didn't have enough fall for my gutter to go in. So my son, he suggested putting it down there, so I did that. And also, another learning experience is, from my barrels to the other end of my garden, there's probably about a 1 to 1.5 foot fall, actually a rise to the other end of the garden. So even if my barrels are full, when I pull the hose to the other end of the garden, the gravity feed doesn't work. So really this needs to be higher. The barrels need to be higher. So here again, if we were going to stay, I would rework this to get the barrels higher. Probably just raising the roof and putting the boards where I originally planned to at this level. So that's what we've got going on here. And that's what we're doing with our vegetable garden this year. So we will see y'all later. Oh, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Heritage Ways. I think you subscribe below, hit the like button, and hit the bell so that you can get notifications when we post a new video. See y'all later.
Well, hey y'all, I'm looking at my summer garden, my summer garden, not my spring. I have to admit I've neglected it for a while, one reason or another, but I came out here yesterday and looked at my strawberries, and just a few weeks ago, or less than a few weeks ago, the thing was covered with strawberry vines and leaves. I'm not quite sure what happened. It looks like the deer, which we have plenty of them, it looks like they have just come over and just snapped off the top of snapped off the vines. You can see that right here. Here it looks like something just bit the vines off all over. So I'm not quite sure what's going on. Here we've got a volunteer cilantro, which is great. Here I've got a volunteer tomatillo, which I was thrilled to find. So I've got that growing. We love to make salsa with the tomatillo, so I'm glad we have a volunteer tomatillo growing. So then over here at this one, now I'll tell you, my wonderful Mr. Patient built these raised beds. What we did is we filled these with various material. We filled them with compost, food scraps. We got even my dried up Boston ferns from 2 years ago when we built these. We put the leftover bedding plants, the flowering plants, the ferns and things, we threw that in here. Just all kinds of organic matter, scrap, more organic matter, we threw that in here. I have a friend, Kedesh Farms, and young Leonardo sold me a couple, 3-4 bags of manure, chicken manure and cow manure. We put that in here, not on the bottom, of course. We did that toward the top. Another thing we did on the bottom were the county comes around, or I guess maybe the city even, I don't know. I guess the city comes around and chops up the stuff that's at the end of people's driveways. That would be the city. And they have a place where you can go just pick it up by the truckfuls for free. Now, that is just whatever is at the end of somebody's driveway. And so once I found, when we went to get a load of that stuff, I found a headboard to an old rocking chair. So it's not organic, and it might not even be trees and shrubs and plants, but we did fill as much as we could of the bottoms of these with that material. Then this spring we came back, the littles and I came, not this spring, excuse me, last year, because I had a son who worked at a lawn and garden place in town, and we got a discount. So I got a lot of bags of mushroom compost, and that's the key. So the mushroom compost is what made this one, look at this one gigantic cherry tomato plant. I came out here yesterday thinking I was going to pull all this up and throw all this away and get ready to plant bok choy and spinach, but this thing is massive. I mean, the base is that big around, and I attribute that to the mushroom compost. I really do. I love that stuff. But this has taken over. Excuse me. This one plant has taken over. Here's my thyme. It's taken over. The tomato has taken over my thyme. Get it? Like taking over my thyme, like things and people do. Okay. Anyway, it smells great. It smells great. And then here's my oregano. So I decided not to pull this up because there are so many green tomatoes going on here with this plant. I will say, there, that has settled that much. And so you have to keep adding to the raised gardens because of course everything's decomposing down in there, all that matter we put in. We've got our marigolds over here that protect my tomatoes from bugs, and I haven't had any bugs on here. I do see, actually I did have a cutworm and I took care of him. So really I didn't intend for this tomato to take over, and I should have known better. I really should have. This should have been planted somewhere else. We do have plans, Lord willing, to full-time maybe sell the house this time next year. So end of next September, Lord willing, is the idea. And so I will have a garden this here next spring as well. I loved having the bok choy and the spinach and the lettuce here, and it was so easy, and it just was prolific in this mushroom compost. Right, this is what I'm excited about. This is the first time I've grown this, and I don't know if it's loofah or luffa, but I'm going to call it loofah for right now. I've got two big loofah gourds growing. Can you see these? And a lot of little ones. I have a lot of little ones going on, a lot of buds. Look at that. That's awesome. These are natural, there's another one, sponges, natural sponges. And I have a special couple that I'm going to give one to if they, produce and nothing gets them and everything works out well. So I have a couple that I'm going to give one of these to, and then I'm going to use the others, and we'll see what happens with that. I've never grown those. But, so then we've got another cherry tomato that has taken over. I've got my basil over here that it's not gone, but I need to make some pesto with that, take care of that. Yesterday I dug up the rest of the dead plants here. I had some pepper plants that were dead or past their prime, and this is where I grew my Swiss chard this spring, and that went through middle of summer easily, and that was great stuff. I even canned some of that for soups and stews. And then the last thing is the yarrow, and I wanted to ask y'all about the yarrow. If somebody could comment and help me out with this. I'm going to admit to you, I should have cut this off. I should have done something with this yarrow. It's past point of doing anything with it other than seed saving, which I plan to do. So just, if somebody can let me know what I should have done with the yarrow. Should I have dried it? What's it good for? What are its uses? I really needed to research more before I planted that. But I know I planted this last year, so I know this will come back for me next year, so that's great. Basil, make pesto with that. It's awesome. Oh, you can do so many things with it. You can rub it on your skin in the summer to keep the bugs away. So we do that. We have a plant of basil on the front porch, and I've got a little sign painted to tell our guests to rub it on their skin. So good. All right, well, that's the tour of my waning summer garden, and I didn't do as good a job as I should have, but I have some more gourds growing there. Look forward to harvesting. But that's it. So I hope to finish getting it cleaned up and get some bok choy planted and maybe some spinach, just some cool weather leafy greens. So I want to remind y'all, we're going to have a drawing, and it's going to be this coming Saturday, October 7th, 2017. We're going to have one of our little kids draw one name for the 3 prizes, but you have to do something. You have to watch the laundry video. Search for laundry video. It says Laundry Day the Heritage Way. You have to watch that video, and the kids will tell you at the end how to enter. You have to comment, and they're going to tell you what to say. You have to be subscribed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for traveling life with us. Remember to subscribe and hit like and ring the little bell for notifications. Have a blessed day, y'all. Thanks.